such an awesome man dedicated to helping people. And it's so fitting and appropriate that he would be the guy that God chose to have bless our event here today. Senior Pastor Lucky Ka'ahumano. Pastor Lucky.
Aloha mai oe. Makaukau, kami kapu. I will bless the Lord at all times, and his praise shall continually be in my mouth. For great is the Lord, and greatly to be praised. And his greatness is unsearchable, and his name alone is excellent. From the rising of the sun unto the going down of the same, the Lord's name is to be praised. Let us pray God's blessings upon this gathering, and ask God for the wisdom that we need to help those that may not have what God's blessed us to receive. Imau aku kalau mai kayo ke aku, sampai kalau walu kalau hanya boleh dengan aku apa, mako makuyo ko kanan, walu iya ko ino, kimai ko au punni, malamai ko maki makoluan nei, kimai iya, malamai makalan nila. To West Poway Taxpayers Association, Delma, Makita, de Aloha. Monique, Omashika. Dan, Chishiba. Mud, Cummings. Joyce, all Cummings. Aloha, Robinson. Lisa Darcy, and Deborah, Barry, and Joe Kuta. May the Lord God bless you and keep you. May God's face shine upon you, and may God lift up his countenance upon all of you and give you peace, both now and forevermore. Amen. Amen. Now, you folks know what this means. For our people, everybody repeat after me. I'll let you know the meaning, because for our Kanakas, this means aloha. So everybody together. Aloha means always. 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 Love. Love. Over. Over. Hate. Hate. Always. Always. No more Hawaii. No more aloha. But no more akua. God. No more love. So with that said, makakau, kami rapu.
Fantastic. Thank you, Pastor Lucky. Give him a big hand, everybody. Such an awesome way to start an event with praise and blessings like that. I was saying it's only fitting that he be the guy to do that. I knew Pastor Lucky for over 30 years, where he's been helping homeless people, people who no one else would help. And him and his wife, Molly A., and their service at Harvest Chapel there on Prince and Lokini Streets was a place of haven in safekeeping for so many people whose lives were changed, many of which have become very productive citizens. Their lives have turned around, and it's just an awesome thing how God's used him in a mighty way. So thank you, Pastor Lucky, very, very much. I'm Joe Pluta. I'm the vice president of the West Maui Taxpayers currently. I was one of the founding directors of the West Maui Taxpayers. And last year, we had our very first Homeless Hot Topics comment, and our president, Rick Nava, who's here, was on the mainland. I think he was in the mainland or in the Philippines last year. Rick, where are you at? Rick Nava. Rick, you going to come up and say something? What? I'm doing just fine. Okay. Rick is another awesome guy that I've known for so many years. He's been working with the community and the West Maui Taxpayers. He's currently our president. He's been serving the community in so many ways. Miss Maui Filipino pageant chairman. I guess they won money for the first time last year. They made a profit. They got him back doing it again this year and helping the community in so many ways. Greg Nelson is here, one of our board members. Greg's the general manager in the Pili Kai. And Zeke Kalua is back there. He's currently working for the county as the mayor's managing member of the administration. What do you call that? Mayor's assistant? That's the proper name? Mayor's assistant. Zeke was an executive director of the West Maui Taxpayers for many years, and he did such a good job. The mayor said, would you mind, Joe, if I hired him away from you and put him to work? I said, for us? I said, absolutely not. No, please, do that. And there he was. What a testimony that was for us that he was doing a great job representing West Maui. And those of you who are here living in West Maui know that we need all the help we can get and all the representation we can get because, as many people know, tunnel vision is one of those things that we suffer from, tunnel vision, the poly tunnel. Some reason people cannot see the vision beyond from central Maui through the tunnel. We affectionately call that they have tunnel vision because many times we have to struggle for getting many things that we believe are necessary here on the west side. The West Maui Taxpayers was formed 36 years ago, and I was the founding director of the West Maui Taxpayers. At the time, it was the Honokawaina Pili Kapalua Taxpayers Union, and I was put in charge of membership and changed the name, the West Maui Taxpayers, and that's when we began our work. We have done many things. We've got our propaganda all over the tables. That's not saving a seat. I wish it was. But it's there to you to please take it with you and pick those up and take it home with you. It's some of our list of accomplishments and things. I want to thank you. I want to thank our people that are back here, May Fujiwara and the Lahaina Honolulu Senior Citizens Club. They're back there, has been serving assisting us with such phenomenal food that we got from a good friend, Art Ortiz, and his wife, Hayan, who started Maui Food Style, a Korean restaurant business next to Maui Tacos in the Lahaina Square, just a few blocks from here. And they've done such a great job in food. I wanted everybody to taste that and have an opportunity to get some more. And we have tons of it left. So if you're, before you leave, make sure you take a plate with you before you go, okay? And have some more at any given time. We'll keep the food available there for another 30 minutes. So, a year ago, we did this thing, opening remarks. Hot Topics was declared, homelessness was declared a crisis. And those of us who've been here and in our various respective jobs, many of the people on this table here, knows that it has been a crisis before, many years before that. But it was formally declared a crisis by the governor over a year ago, and he got Scott Morishige, who was elected to be his, or appointed, not elected, but appointed to be his homeless coordinator. Scott was here last year at our first topic, and he was sorry he couldn't make it today. He apologized for that, and he said that his travel budget or there's difficulties. I said, we'll pay for you next year, so come here next time when we do Hot Topics number 3. But he's sent Leah Balmati, who will be introduced to you later. She's not right now, but she'll be coming up later to give an update. And we had such a fantastic time last year. It was on Akaku, and I thank Akaku. Josh is here from Akaku filming our event, and we have it on a link at westmaui.org. You can go to this link of the Hot Topic events last year and see the whole presentation from last year, and we are going to ask that be done again to this presentation. This information, this topic, this subject, and the people, the panelists we have here are so incredible, and the updates are going to be so much great information. it would be literally a crime not to have it in available format so it can be seen and disseminated and digested by the thousands and thousands of people that need to see and hear and know more about this very, very important topic. And they will have that ability thanks to Akaku. And thank you very much for Akaku and doing that. I know everybody's busy and some people are still in the shock of the elections that happened. We're not going to talk about that. We're going to try to say, we've got our own shocking things here going on, but we've got a lot of things that have happened since last year. Our panelists are going to be able to tell you some of the things that have happened in the last year, and who did such a phenomenal job for us that last year was Deidre Teagarden, who is such an awesome lady that is granted graciously to come and do it again. Deidre Teagarden, she served as the appointed position of the Chief of Protocol for Governor Neil Abercrombie of the state of Hawaii, and most recently a second consecutive appointment in the same capacity for Governor Iggy. She's currently the Executive Director of Nisei Veterans Memorial Center, and she speaks, which was perfect for her because she's fluent in Chinese and Japanese, and that's greatly helped her work in Maui County in the state of Hawaii. And her background in private, public, and social enterprise sectors has been something that you'll see for yourself. I've been able to witness it and see how she can efficiently handle and coordinate things just like this panel. She did such a great job for us last year. I'm so happy she's consented to come here again for us. And please join me in welcoming Deidre Teagarden.
Thank you, Joe. That was such a beautiful introduction. I didn't even want to come up. I just wanted to have you keep on talking. But in all seriousness, thank you so much. It's really an honor to be back again this year. As Joe had mentioned, we had an amazing discussion last year. We have many of our panelists back again this year, and we have some new panelists as well. So that's very exciting. You know, with Maui County having a 0.7% homelessness rate, which is even higher than Oahu at 0.5, or at the state average at 0.6, you know, this panel and these discussions are incredibly timely. And, you know, now it's, you know, the discussion has been going on for a while. We understand that there's an issue. And I think what we really want to talk about tonight is what is being done and what can we do? You know, what can we do as regular citizens? We have so many great organizations out there that are doing work. How can we help them? So to actually get this started, why don't I have Leah Belmonte? Leah Belmonte is the governor's representative. She is Governor David Ige's representative here on Maui. Anything that you need from the governor, you can contact Leah. She and her team in Wailuku are just amazing and very accessible. She's going to give us a little update on the governor's homeless initiative because Scott wasn't able to be here this evening. So let's give Leah a big round of applause and welcome her to the stage.
Thank you, Deidre. Well, aloha. It's really an honor to be here. And like Joe had mentioned, yes, Scott Morishige did have the opportunity to be on the last year's panel, and so did want to share a couple of updates from what has happened from last year that Scott had provided me. But again, so Scott Morishige, as Joe had mentioned, was appointed by Governor David Ige as his homeless coordinator. So he's the expert and the face for homelessness. So definitely would like to extend his regrets. But we'll be glad to pass on any information onto him or governor as well. So again, would like to provide a quick update that was provided. And so this is in comparison with I do have some great numbers. Between 2015 and 2016, Maui County itself experienced only a 1% increase in homeless persons counted in what's called the point in time, or PIT. So that's compared to an 18% increase between 2014 and 2015. So going from an 18% increase in the previous years now to a 1% increase, we're now hopefully starting to see the trend as far as improvement. The 2016 PIT count, again, which is point in time for Maui County, was a total of 1,145 persons. So that's equivalent to about 8 people, more than the 2015 PIT count. Some other numbers as well did want to share as far as the level of funding for the housing placement program on Maui. It increased by 21%. So again, we're starting to see funding being funneled through. So that was increased by 21% due to Governor's emergency proclamation. So again, this resulted in approximately 403 Maui residents receiving housing placement services between 2015 to 2016. And again, just to give you a comparison, that's about a 28% increase in the number of persons served over the prior year, or 87 additional lives that were impacted. And now some more figures as well, sharing from Scott. He did mention that through the coordinated statewide homeless initiative with Aloha United Way, 87 households equivalent to 261 people were served on Maui over the past 5 months. And so CSHI delivers services throughout Maui nonprofits such as Catholic Charities Hawaii, Kahalea Keola, and Maui Economic Opportunity. So the organizations represented here today. And previously, Joe had asked me when we first came in, and I had asked, was the governor's emergency proclamation extended? So just to let you know, the governor's emergency proclamation was extended, I believe, about 6 times. So it has finally, the proclamation had recently ended. So that's where you'll see now, last month in October, we're now looking to do long-term planning. So we're moving out of that hurdle as far as the emergency proclamation and now looking more long-term. So again, in October, the Department of Human Services will be releasing a request for proposal for a range of homeless services, including outreach, shelter, rapid rehousing, and housing first. So this is where we encourage Maui providers to apply. The request for proposal will reflect a housing first approach that moves homeless persons into housing as quickly as possible and provides the appropriate level of services to help them maintain their housing over time. Another project that was done this year and had the opportunity to work with a number of the panel members. Recently there was a landlord summit that was held where I did have the opportunity to work with Thelma from Catholic Charities Hawaii, Maud Cummings from Family Life Center, Jan Shishido from County Department of Housing. And at that landlord summit, the event, I believe, was well attended, and we received much positive feedback. So I'm hoping to, again, our hope is to see yet another landlord summit next year. Okay. Another event that recently happened, the State Department of Defense sponsored a veteran stand-down event in Maui recently on November 3rd. So this was held at the Pu'unene Armory in Kihei, and the purpose of that event was to bring together government and nonprofit providers to support the needs of homeless veterans. With all of this information that I got to share from Scott, bottom line, I just want to say, proud to say that here on Maui, our nonprofit leaders are the leaders in the homeless service system. Again, on Maui, just wanted to give some recognition to Ms. Maud Cummings from Family Life Center, who was previously a member on the Hawaii Interagency Council on Homelessness, and also served as the chair of the Bridging the Gap, which is the continuum of care for the neighbor islands. And again, likewise, on behalf of Governor Ige and Scott Morishige, really want to thank the Coalition of Homeless Service Providers on Maui, the county, private sector partnerships for being the backbone for getting things done on the neighbor islands. Again, homelessness on numerous levels is not a simple situation to conquer, so really appreciate all that you do to serve our community. Mahalo nui loa, and again, please, if you have any questions or or any information that you would like to share, I'd be more than glad to share that with Scott and the governor. So thank you again for allowing me to be here. Thank you to Joe and Rick for hosting tonight's event for the second annual West Maui Taxpayer Association Hot Topics evening. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Leah. And yes, let's have another round of applause for Leah, all the work that she does on behalf of the governor. And I'd like to gently ask our panelists to come up to the stage. And you know what, Mr. Joe, I think we need 2 more chairs, actually. Something happened to our chairs. And, you know, West Maui Taxpayers Association, they are always the first group to really jump on major issues. So they have a very dedicated board of directors, and I'd like to give them another big round of applause for the West Maui Taxpayers Association and all of their board members that are here this evening. As Joe had mentioned, all of this is going to be recorded on Akaku. Thank you, Akaku. And a lot of the questions might also be listed on the West Maui Taxpayers Association website. So please check them out at WMTA.org. So what I'd like to do is just go down the crescent moon-shaped panel and have everyone give a basic introduction of yourselves, and then we will start with questions. But Lisa, would you like to start us off with an introduction?
Yes, thank you so much for having everybody here tonight. I really appreciate it. My name is Lisa Darcy. I have worked in many capacities with the Maui community. Essentially, I came to Maui to work with individuals who had serious and persistent mental health issues, and it really led me into working with individuals that were homeless. And that's kind of where all my experience has culminated. So it's really nice to be here tonight. Thank you so much for hosting West Maui Taxpayers Association.
Aloha, I'm Deborah Berry, been a Maui resident since 2007. I would consider myself to be an advocate for homelessness at this point. Also very much interested in assisting the mental health community as well. And very excited to be here, very excited to be addressing this and to be here with all of you. Thank you very much.
Good evening, Kaloa Robinson. I'm a project manager with Stanford Car Development. Most applicable to all of you and the West Maui Taxpayers Association is that I'm the project manager for the Kahoma Village project, just down the street over on Front Street.
Good evening, I'm Joyce Kawakami. I am the founder, executive director, and janitor of Feed My Sheep.
Hi, I'm Maud Cumming. I'm the Executive Director for Family Life Center. I also serve as the co-chair of the Maui Homeless Alliance along with Thelma Akita Kealoha.
Good evening, I'm Janji Shido. I am the Deputy Director of the Department of Housing and Human Concerns for the County of Maui. I am human and I'm concerned, so I'm glad to be here tonight.
Indeed.
Thank you. But I did want to be sure to thank the ladies, Arlene, May, in the back for helping tonight. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Rick. And especially thank you to Stacy. Stacy is our director here at West Maui Senior Center. Thank you, Stacy.
Hi, good evening. My name is Monique Yamashita, and I'm the Chief Executive Officer for Kahaleake Ola Homeless Resource Centers. It's nice to be here this evening.
Hi, my name is Thelma Akita Kealoha, and I work for Catholic Charities Hawaii. And as Maud said, I'm the co-chair for Maui Homeless Alliance. Also, if you guys need comedy relief, I already told them if they nudge me hard enough, I might fall over the side.
All right, so nobody can move, basically. Yes. So thank you all for being here this evening. We really look forward to the news and the questions and the answers that we're going to be asking. I'd like to actually start off with Lisa and Deborah. So we were talking a little bit earlier, and Deborah Barry, who is a community advocate, was also at one point unsheltered herself. So we thought it would be a good way to kind of set the tone and let those who have not experienced being unsheltered, know some of the things that she actually has gone through. So we were talking at the table, and she had a question. We were talking. So here's the question for the audience, and then Deborah is going to give us her answer. So let's say it's 2 o'clock in the morning, and you have a flashlight being shined in your face. Who are you hoping is holding that flashlight? A, do you hope that it's a DLNR representative? B, do you hope it's a tweaker? C, do you hope it's someone from the Maui Police Department? Or D, do you hope that it's a drunk? So how many people think it would be a DLNR representative that you hope were shining that flashlight in your face? All right. A, okay, we got 2. How many of you think you would rather it be a tweaker? Okay. Number 3, who thinks that it would be the Maui Police Department? You'd want the Maui Police Department. Okay. And then D, who hopes it would be a drunk? Okay. All right. So I'm going to turn it over to Deborah to give you the answer and explain why. Deborah, if you would.
From the position of someone who has been unsheltered, who you are hoping for is B, the tweaker. And I'll tell you why. Because if it is DNLR, then you're looking at fines and having to get into the system in a very negative way and basically being criminalized. If it is a police officer, the same thing. Is it good to have now a criminal record when you're already in a bad position? Obviously, if you're homeless, you're in a bad position. D, drunks tend to be very violent. They want to fight, they want to argue. So the beauty of B, the tweaker, is they would just roll up and go, "Auntie, you got a lighter?" So as strange as it sounds, B is the answer there.
So, thank you for sharing that story too, because it's a very personal one. But from a point of view of not being unsheltered, definitely we would think that the answer would be different. And regardless of anything, you are the person who was there, and that's what you would be hoping for. So, thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely.
We'll come
Thank
back
you.
with some more questions. So, Joyce Kawakami from Feed My Sheep. You are the chair of the Hunger and Homelessness Awareness Week. Could you please tell us some of the things that are happening and what exactly that means?
Well, this is a national event and has been going on for 25 years now. Maui has been participating actively for 10 years or so, maybe longer. But it's a week of bringing awareness to the community. It's one of the things that's really difficult is it's a difficult issue. It's a very difficult issue, and there's so many layers of government, community service, and laws that surround this. So as a community of people trying so hard to work with it, it's a way for us to bring this to the public so that those in the community can understand there's just more to it than what we are doing, and we need the help. We need everybody's help in this. And it's an awareness event where people also will stop dehumanizing those who are houseless and come to realize that they are people, they have mothers, they are my neighbors, they are your neighbors. But there's so many different areas to work on, so it's a community event to bring awareness.
I think you bring up a good point. I think homelessness does not discriminate, and we see so many ethnicities, so many ages of homeless. Sometimes we don't, we have a certain image in our mind, but with things like Homeless Awareness Week, we can get more educated ourselves.
So exactly. So today is actually our kickoff, where the mayor had the proclamation in his chambers, or not actually in his chambers, but in his conference room earlier today.
and then this one tonight. And tomorrow we have sign waving on both the west side and Central Maui at 4:30. Over here, it'll be over at Cannery Mall. Joe will be there and smiling, and so bring your signs. On Central Maui will be near Macy's on Kahumani Avenue, and that's 4:30 to 5:30. Wednesday we have a candlelight vigil from 6 to 7 at Queen Kahumanu Shopping Center. I'm kind of excited about the event. There's going to be some nice entertainment, but a lot of heart put into it. We have some entertainers that have never participated before. We were practicing yesterday, and they were already crying over the music and over the program, so I expect a lot out of this. On Thursday is the Patrick Foyle Annual Health Fair for the Homeless. It's at Salvation Army in Central Maui from 9 to 1. There'll be free food and free giveaways, so if you can participate, that's great. But it brings the services to the forefront so that people who are houseless will know what services are out there. And then on Friday, there's a statewide homeless conference on Oahu. Everyone can participate in that, but it's usually practitioners who participate.
And Joyce, if someone wanted to get that schedule, is it listed on your website? Is it going to be on the West Maui Taxpayers Association website?
Yeah, and yes, and ask me.
Okay, good.
My phone number, at my office is 872-9100. People can call and ask any questions they want from myself or the staff.
Okay, thank you so much. All right, let's continue with Thelma down at Catholic Charities. We hear Catholic Charities spoken about quite often. I think I was listening to HPR this morning or the other day, and they were talking about Catholic Charities. For those of us who might not know all of the services that you provide, could you kind of give us an overview of what you do?
Well, Catholic Charities Hawaii is a statewide organization. So on Oahu, they have a huge campus, and they provide lots of different services, and they go from birth to aged. And same on the Big Island. On Maui and Kauai, however, it is smaller programs. So we don't provide the same types of services. The one thing, however, I did want to point out is many times when we get calls for assistance, people will call and say to us, I'm Catholic, I need help, or I'm Catholic, I gave donations to the church. And that's great. I tell them, oh, that's wonderful. However, Catholic Charities Hawaii is a private nonprofit organization. We do share the same mission as the church. However, the church does not fund us. We do have a board of directors. We get about 2% maybe from the Catholic diocese. The rest of our the rest of the funds that provide services are raised much like other nonprofit organizations. So we follow along those same lines. And then part of our mission is to serve the really needy and poor folks in the community. So on Maui, we do have foster parent programs, and you know how every so many years they like to change the names of things? So we all know foster parents. Well, they've changed it to resource families. So we don't call them foster families anymore. We call them resource families. And it sounds way nicer, but in a nutshell, when you tell people resource families, they don't know what you're talking about. So you have to say it's a foster family program. So we do training. We do home studies. We also do licensing for these families. And there's two types of foster families. One is called general licensing, and that's mainly for children who aren't related to the foster families. And then the other one is it's strictly families, could be the other parent, could be grandparents, and you folks all know that lots of people here in Hawaii are grandparents raising their grandchildren, and that's just the way it is here. So it could be Hanai family, very close friends of the family, but there has to be some kind of connection. And then the other foster parent program that we have, serves children across the 50 states. So we can have a child in Alaska, in New York, East Coast, West Coast, that has somebody here that they're connected to. And that family will go through a home study. That family has to get prepared and approved to come to Hawaii. That child has to be, the family that they're going to has to be approved before that child can come. But the neat thing about this program is that the person who works there can case manage this family for at least a year. The minimum is a year. And if they need more assistance, it can go for longer. And it's really neat to be able to work with a child and that family for that length of time. And so those are some of the other programs we have. The other ones that I wanted to talk about is our homelessness services and our rapid rehousing services. We get funding to provide those type of services. They're not necessarily from the same places as the other programs here. So we have rental assistance. We do emergency financial assistance. We have a fund from the Office of Hawaiian Affairs that serves Native Hawaiians who have emergencies. And lots of times, we have families, Native Hawaiian families that are in need, especially when people pass away and things like that. So if they qualify for that emergency financial assistance, they can come in and apply.
I was going to say, so Thelma, do you have literature with you this evening, or how can someone, maybe who's watching Akaku, get in touch with your office? And I didn't mean to cut you off if you wanted to continue.
It's 873-HOPE, so 873-4673 is the phone number. We do have people who respond to inquiries about emergency financial assistance. And I did pass out those resource cards. If you see those green cards on your table, a lot of our services are on that card, and it's meant for people in emergencies. It's meant for people who are homeless to utilize those numbers. So if you know anybody who's in need, give them the card, or you can call any one of us, because we're always referring to each other as far as services. So if we can't provide the service, we definitely will refer to another organization.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So speaking of other services, we have Monique with Kahaleake Ola. When you think of Kahaleake Ola, of course, you think about the facility in Wailuku, but there are other facilities that are available, and a lot of times you hear people asking, how can I qualify for the services? What level do I have to be at? So could you just give us a little overview?
Sure. So our main facility is in Wailuku on Waiale Drive. 670 Waiale Drive is our main shelter facility. The other facility we have is here on the west side on Ipu Amakua Lane, which is actually 15 Ipu Amakua Lane, which is right above the pool, the public pool, and the playground or public park over there on the west side. So we have two facilities to house the homeless and those who need transitional housing. And how somebody can apply is basically to call for services. Our main number to call for services is 242-HOME, 242-HOME. That number can be called and someone can ask about services on either side, so either the west side or the central facility. We actually will bring someone in as long as they're clean and sober. So at this time, they do have to be clean from drugs and alcohol free to get into the facility. That will change a little bit later next year. We'll be going towards the Housing First model where someone does not have to be clean and sober to get into the facility, and we'll change our program services to accommodate those individuals.
That's a big change.
It is a big change, but we know that that's the way to get people into services, because right now if someone is on drugs or using alcohol, they know they can't get to our facility and they're not going to get housed or get emergency services. So it's going to be a good necessary change.
Do you have a wait list for people, for clients waiting to get in, or is it pretty steady, pretty steady in and out?
That's an interesting question. We do have what's called a wait list, and basically we have that at this time because often with those that are houseless, to communicate with them, to let them know we have a bed available for them can be cumbersome and difficult at times, because those who are homeless tend to either not have money to keep their cell phones on, or they lose their phones, or their phones get stolen. So we'll reach out to them to let them know, hey, we have a bed available. Right now we do have beds available, and if anyone called today for services and they were clean and sober, we could get them a bed right away, so they wouldn't have to wait. So the wait list is kind of an odd thing that we have, that we work with people on it.
Okay, thank you very much. Jan Shishido, Housing and Human Concerns. We've heard a lot with the mayor's initiatives to assist with the homeless. We know you have some new things happening in the office. Can you just kind of give us an overview of your initiatives and what kind of things we can be looking forward to that may have been updated from last year when you were here?
Okay, thank you for that question. Before I begin, I wanted to thank Leah who pretty much went over the governor's emergency proclamation that happened last year in October. And through this initiative, through the emergency proclamation, the governor looked at rapid construction for temporary shelter, immediate extension of existing contracts for homeless services, and also immediate funding for programs that promote immediate housing. But that was just for state. So county was kind of left out of the loop. So here we had our mayor who took the initiative in November of 2015 to roll out his county initiative, Maui County Initiative. And, but I have to say that, as Leah pointed out, that October of 2016, just last month, the proclamation did end. And in that 6th extension of the proclamation, the county sort of got squeezed in there. So county did have a little leeway, but still the proclamation ended. So with that, going back to November of 2015, the mayor had an initiative that named about 7 items, and they included immediate sheltering, midterm sheltering, projects to move forward, which was to help all the projects that were kind of stalled within our system, introduction of, or pending and stalled projects, introduction of an anti-nuisance laws, enforcement and cleanup plans, and then a new homeless division in the Department of Housing and Human Concerns. So of course, the complication of the timeliness, the budget constraints, and so many reasons that right now we are actually moving on 3 of the initiatives. And so the other week, I was on a panel for the Policy Intergovernmental Affairs Committee with Council Member Michael Victorino. And he has brought up the 5 anti-nuisance laws. On November 22nd, the PIA committee will again convene, and they're going to be looking at it to see how it's going to go moving forward. We've sat down with MPD, we've sat down with Corp Council, and we've sat down with the committee, the PIA committee, and hopefully the dialogue will kind of streamline and better examine the anti-nuisance laws. The other thing is if the anti-nuisance laws, it'll help bring, and it'll help the MPD, the Maui Police Department, in enforcing some of the things. And it's just not targeting the homeless. I just want to make that very clear, that these anti-nuisance laws is the protection of the whole community. It's for health and safety for our community. The second one that is right now being looked at is the cleanup plan. So we're looking at monies to be able to have an agency help with the cleanup. I tell you, the Maui Police Department community policing guys are fabulous. They're the ones who are cleaning up. They're the ones who are gathering the shopping carts. They're the ones who really help make Maui the best, you know? So to give them a little help, that's in our plans right now in the department. And of course, we're moving forward on a new homeless program division and with the Department of Housing and Human Concerns. And that is, actually the recruitment ends tomorrow. Applications are now being accepted and deadline is tomorrow. So we do have a coordinator and a specialist for that division.
That's very exciting. We want to hear a little bit more about that. But those are some good initiatives, and we thank you for sharing them. So you're a little bit busy up there on the in your office. So we thank you for all you do. I'd like to continue on with Maud. Maud, here's a question that I hear all the time, and there's a lot of, some people think it's true, some people think it's a myth, but do other states and municipalities really send their homeless to Maui County or to our state, or specifically Maui?
I have heard that question too as well in the 20-something years I've been working in this field. So we really made it a point to ask everyone that comes into our agency how they got here, if they're not residents, and to find out who paid their way, did they pay their own? We have not found anyone that has had their way paid by an agency. What we have found is that people will use their own resources, but say if they're in an institution somewhere in the mainland, the caseworker may ask them, if you had your choice, where would you like to live? And if they say, oh, Maui, then maybe they will help them facilitate the process. So help them figure out what's the cheapest airfare. Maybe when we discharge you, we'll help you get a cab, and we'll help you get to the airport. But they've used their own, say they get disability, they've saved their money and used their own resources. Or what we also have heard are families who say live in Chicago, where it's cold, and they know that their loved one is probably never going to stop drinking, will always be addicted in some way or another, and will be on the streets and will freeze to death on Chicago. So they will pay their way because they won't freeze on the streets in Hawaii. And it's interesting, I heard an expert in the field that represents the California, Nevada region, and she mentioned that every state that she goes to, that is the number one question she gets asked. The mayors ask her, everyone asks her, and everybody seems to have that same issue. So she said it's not unique to Hawaii. And so I did want to say that we do have a small program that's funded by the Hawaii Tourism and Lodging Association. They gave us a little bit of money to help send people back home. So there are some restrictions to it. It has to end a person's homelessness. It's not just, oh, I'm tired of being here, I want to go back. We don't want to create a situation where people are here that, oh, you can get funds to get back on the plane. So they have to pay at least half of their airfare. We've seen some success in that, in reconnecting people with, it's amazing. There are families who have lost touch with their loved ones, and we have had some amazing connections of people looking for their families, and we were able to assist that. Two people in particular I can think of that had some serious medical issues that we were able to reconnect with their families on the mainland. In one case, even transporting them back, but where people really wanted them. And if it ends their homelessness, we will try to facilitate it. So that's the long answer to your question.
No, thank you very much. And yeah, we hear that question a lot, so I'm thankful that you were able to answer it. So we've been talking a lot about homeless. Of course, we know there's also a huge affordable housing issue here, which is why we have the issue that we do. We have Kaloa Robinson from Stanford Carter Development with us today. So I'd like to ask you, I mean, how much housing do we really need to build to satisfy the demand, and what do we need to do to get there?
Okay, so two questions is how much do we need and how do we get there? There's probably a third question to ask, which is are we on our way? So let me try to answer the first and the third and then get back to the last. We, according to DBET, Department of Business, Economic Development, and Tourism, a study they released last year, we need 65,000 units across the state to satisfy for the next 5 years. So in order to satisfy the demand, the net increase in new households over the next 5 years, the state needs to build 65,000. Half of that's in Honolulu. You got 32,000 you got to build out in Oahu, but in Maui, you got to build 14,000 over 5 years. So just to kind of put that particular number in perspective, Kahoma Village over on Front Street, the project that I'm working on, you would have to build 69 Kahoma villages in 5 years in order to satisfy that demand. So it's a steep hill to climb. So the question that I snuck in there was, are we on our way? Are we sort of starting to close that gap? Are we making headway? I think the answer is that we're kind of doing it. In that same study, there is a line item on a table about Maui, and the line item lists the amount of building permits DBET expects to be pulled within the 5-year period from 2015 to 2020. It's 350. So we don't even have 10% of the problem in the pipe. And if you ask anyone on this panel, they'll tell you that there's more than one homeless problem, but one of the easiest homeless problems to fix are those that are 1 or 2 paychecks away from homelessness. And it's more people than I think we would care to admit. It's our friends, it's our cousins, our families, a lot of our teachers. So the answer to that is we're really not getting there. And the final question is, what do we need to get to that point? What do we have to do in order to house our little brothers, our sons and daughters, our teachers, our kapuna, whomever? If you ask a Honolulu or an Oahu developer, they're okay with rezoning land, so they'll say, let's just build. Just build, just build, just build. And I think that's a simpler answer than the answer that Maui deserves. I think when you ask that question in Maui, I think you have to also ask yourself, how do we preserve the rural nature of Maui? Because it's baked into the charter. It's about what Maui is. So you can't just build 400-foot, 40-story high-rises in Kahului. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants a giant freeway stretching across the island. I don't think anyone really wants a rail. It's tough to do. I don't think you guys want that headache. So the answer has to be, we gotta just build, but the right way. It means that in our urban cores that we go a little bit denser and maybe a little bit higher. It doesn't mean that we're building high-rises. Maybe it means we're doing 4 or 5-story apartment complexes, still maintaining those view planes, but at the same time getting a little bit more density out of the land. And then on top of that, it means that we need to start reinvesting in our infrastructure. In particular, I think our water system has some opportunity for growth. So if you couple all those things together, there is a path to that 14,000 unit bogey, but it's a very narrow path, and it does a lot of this, and it's not going to be easy unless the county, the governor's office, all of you, and maybe a few of me and my boss try to get together and build a few homes. So.
Well, you bring up the good point of the hidden homeless, and it is. I mean, everybody, no matter where you live, there's neighbors nearby that have family that are working, some of them even working 2 jobs, but living in a garage. And they are just, like you said, one or 2 paychecks or one argument away from being homeless. And then you also have that very difficult issue of not wanting to overdevelop. And there's that very fine line there. It's good to see everybody having the discussion and moving things forward. But for instance, with Coahoma Village, you know, how long has it been in the pipeline, and what is your estimated date for completion? I mean, just to give people a basic idea on how long has taken you so far.
Yeah, sure. So let me also put that 14,000 unit, try to put it into perspective with Coahoma Village. I told you we'd have to build 69 Coahoma villages in order to satisfy that 14,000 unit bogey. What this would mean, you guys give me the shakes, you know. You guys look nice, but sometimes you give me the shakes.
It's a good crowd. It's a good crowd.
No. I mean, so Coahoma Village, we started entitling in 2012, and it took us 2 years before our application even got to the council. So let's say it took 69 Coahoma villages. We expect to be completed with the project in 2020. So you start in 2012, 2013, you finish in 2020. If we're only building one project at a time, and it takes 7 years to build a Coahoma Village, it takes you 500 years to satisfy that 14,000 unit bogey. Obviously, you know, there's more than one developer out there, and they're working on more than one project at a time, but I think that should really, you know, paint a good picture of what it's going to take to fix a good chunk. I don't know, what would you guys say? What percentage of homelessness could be resolved just by housing? A third, maybe a quarter, something like that? Around there. So we could put a big dent in homelessness just by housing.
Yeah, okay. We have some other questions coming in from the audience that I want to get to. But before we do that, I just had one more question for, you know, Deborah and Lisa. Maybe it's a joint question, or maybe it's more for Deborah. But, you know, having the experience of being unsheltered, you know, I know what we probably think are the most difficult things of being unsheltered, but from your perspective, you know, what are some of the more difficult aspects of being unsheltered?
I would say one of the most difficult aspects of being unsheltered is trauma. Nothing in my life ever prepared me for that. I was a well-educated person. I've been an entrepreneur. Northwestern University, you know, the top intellectual echelon in this country, allegedly. And yet what took me down was my own physical health and the inability then to maintain. So the people that are out there are definitely suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. Believe it, because every moment from the time you open your eyes, whether it's to the flashlight at the 2 a.m. tweaker, or whether it's waking up because you have to get your tent or your vehicle or your body moved, every moment 24/7 is about survival. It's about safety. I was an older woman out there. I'm a woman of age. I was in my 50s. I'm 61 now. And to be in your 50s and to be out there constantly in a state of fear is horrifying. So what you're really dealing with is trauma. Anyone who's out there not by choice, and there are, I'm sure, a percentage that are there by choice, but anyone that's out there on the streets not by choice, believe it, they are traumatized. They are traumatized. Health concerns are the next issue, because when you're living on a beach, there aren't exactly oftentimes restroom facilities. There's physical issues, staph infections, Hunger is a huge issue. Thank goodness, I think I saw Feed My Sheep is here tonight. But there are also mental health issues. Like I said, the post-traumatic stress disorder, there's physical issues, there's transportation issues many times for people. Being out very remote for myself was often something I would do because I didn't want to have to deal with the tweakers and the drunks and all of the rest of it. And yet if I had to come into town for appointments and medical things, then that meant I had to come into a place like Kihei, which is very much more dangerous in its own rights. So definitely the mental health issue, the physical health issues, transportation, those are definitely key issues.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll piggyback on that. So I've spent a lot of time actually talking with people where they're at. And when I was executive director at Ho'omoana, I would always have people, I always made an extra lunch. You were always going to share whatever you had, always made a cup of tea, always partnered with someone. And I never presumed to know what they needed. And I remember the day I met Deborah, and I really just sat with her and I said, what do you need? I'm not going to try and tell you what you need. And I think the beauty of having a totally private agency is I wasn't mandated to deliver any specific service. I was mandated to help somebody get better. And so I fully depended upon that person to communicate with me what they needed. But then it was really my responsibility as a professional to understand. In fact, this evening I was sitting talking with a woman and she says, oh, I want to live out, I'm going to live out and be on my own and live in my tent. And then when I really started asking some questions and breaking it down, I said, well, what if you had this? Or what if you had that? Then, she was like, well, yeah, maybe. So, you don't presume that because someone is just saying a line to you that that's actually what they mean. They're responding to trauma a lot of times. So it's really important to just sit with people and say, what is it that you need? And we got bus passes, and I remember she got kicked off a bus because she had an extra bag. And she was also, there's things that happen out there that you can't even imagine. That we need to be extraordinarily cautious with people that are in this situation and recognize where they're at and what they're going through.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. I think really listening to people and trying to put ourselves in their shoes. But this is a question from the audience. I will let anybody answer it, but it's been brought up a couple of times. And here's the question: is there a recognized element in the homeless population that they are there by choice and prefer that lifestyle of not being in a shelter, or that they prefer that lifestyle? And you brought it up. So we hear about people who choose that lifestyle, and from the panel's point of view, anyone can answer. How do you find that question to be?
I don't think anyone wants to be homeless, but there are different reasons why they won't come into a shelter or why they won't access services that are available. And so it is our job to engage them in a way where we find out what it is their needs are. It is about them telling us what they want and seeing, and so we have to be very creative. We have to be very clear about how we're listening, that we don't have any prejudgments or preconceived notions of, there's no one size fits all. There is, you have to treat each person with dignity and really listen to what they want. And unfortunately, we don't have all the resources that we need. And so, but I don't think anyone chooses, I hear that a lot. No, some people want to be homeless. When you really, like Lisa said, when you really start talking to them, you'll find out, well, maybe they believe that that is their only choice because of the options that have been presented to them.
All right. We had another question here, and Janet was kind of delivered to you. but it's open to anybody. As we encounter homeless individuals, homeless clients, how do we react as a regular, not an expert in the field, but if we feel like we can help, how should we react? That was one of the questions that came in.
So, as you know, this is Hunger and Homelessness Awareness Week, and it's so apropos that the theme for this year is close to home. Sorry, I get choked up whenever I say the theme, because it is close to home. We have neighbors, we have friends, and you spoke about the people in the garage or, on the couch, and those aren't counted. Those are the hidden homeless, and those are not counted in the PIT count that Leah mentioned, the point-in-time count. So we know the numbers are much more than what has been presented in official studies. So again, what can we do? The whole thing is, this issue is so getting bigger and bigger, and it's evident that homelessness is close to home, like I said. Family and friends who are close to homelessness aren't able, need to be able to find resources that can sustain them so that they can get back on their feet. And I think I heard a very profound person say that everybody needs kindness. And I think for us, we need to be sure that when we approach a homeless person, like Lisa and Maud said, that we need to approach them with, what do you need? How can we help? It's not this is what you need. This is what we can do for you. It's always the question of what do you need? And so basically, so before I start crying, I'm going to present my little riddle.
Okay.
So what does a common cold and homelessness have in common?
It can happen to anyone.
It can happen to anyone, yeah. So that's, I think with compassion and a heart, we need to approach homelessness in that respect.
Thank you. There, but for the grace of God, go I.
I just wanted to mention, here sits Jan. She's really sweet, very soft-spoken. When we do the point-in-time count, Jan goes out with Maud's outreach worker, and she does the point-in-time count, and she runs and greets people to get that done. So this is somebody who walks the walk. Just wanted you folks to know.
Thank you. Did you want to jump in on that, Lisa? I saw you
I
wait
think
for the microphone.
There's actually a lot of low-hanging fruit in that question. And one of the things that I think about are even just the way our transportation system is set up. Our bus passes are not designed to have compatible transfers. Almost every transportation system that I know has transfers. And so if someone is on a very low income or they're trying to get to their job or whatever, they have to pay another bus fare or they have to buy the daily pass. I mean, there's just so many simple things like this that we can address that are really affecting people. One of the common themes I constantly heard was transportation. People they can't afford cars. We have to make it so that this system serves people, they can get to places safely. I was buying bus passes constantly for people, and they're expensive on Maui, very expensive. So that's one thing that's really simple to change. It's not going to change the cost of the bus system because it's already in place. But what it will do is it will help people to so many people couldn't get to their Catholic Charities appointment, or they couldn't get there, or they couldn't get it in time, they couldn't get there. That's really prohibitive for them moving forward.
So even if somebody is watching, or someone in the audience tonight, they want to help somehow, they could even purchase bus passes and give them to one of the organizations up here to help distribute as well, while we look at changing the way the bus system, the transportation is set up, the transportation system is set up. But people can do little things like that as well that
Yeah.
will have a huge difference.
I would definitely earmark it, and I would definitely say this is also really geared towards us and making a difference with our transportation system.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay. Joyce, I wanted to, you're Feed My Sheep. We see your trucks around all over Maui, which is wonderful. How do people qualify to receive your food? How do they sign up? Do you only serve homeless? Do you serve hidden homeless? Do you serve people on limited incomes? Are you any part of the Backpack Buddies as well? But I guess lots of questions there, but how do people get in touch with you? How do people qualify for your services?
Well, they qualify if, we use the same financial qualification process as, say, the food stamps, and then we ask people what their financial status is. If it's really important to make sure it's the people who need it, because there's only limited resources, so we want to make sure that the correct people get the food. So that's basically all it is. And you asked me about different people. Well, all of the above. Yeah, all of the above. We serve the homeless, of course, but we serve those in poverty, anyone who just doesn't have enough money or resources to eat. We don't want people losing their home because they have to buy groceries. You know how expensive groceries are here? So we hunt because, even though we have a business and everything, groceries and just having enough resources to pay for what you need here is very difficult for many families. So we currently serve 3,200. When the recession was really deep back in 2009, we served 9,500. So, at least now there's many people gone back to work and not as many people need the help. But did I answer your question?
I think you did, and I also think I know people who have been helped by Feed My Sheep, and they are not homeless, but they are right on the verge, and there are a lot of senior citizens, and they know that they can go to Feed My Sheep, and they're not going to be turned away. Yeah. So, just wanted to clarify that. Thelma, oh yes, go ahead, Jan.
So Joyce, can you please tell us about your Lahaina on Thursdays? Because that is an amazing service that you do for the Lahaina community.
Okay, so every Thursday morning from 10:30 to 11:45, we have the free distribution, and we can serve anywhere from 80 to 130 families in any given day. We also have a produce market, and that's what Jan's referring to. We have a produce market that it was originally intended specifically for those who were impoverished, but then we found out if we offer, which we do take food stamps, you have to open it up to the community because you are not allowed to stigmatize the poor. So it's open to the community, but those who we financially qualify get a 75% discount and can use their food stamps. So their food stamps will go 4 times as far. And the majority of it is organic, and it's all local Maui produce.
That's wonderful. I mean, we talk about that all the time, and it's so difficult for those on a fixed income, or they have the EBT card, to be able to go out and buy fresh, organic. So you're doing that. That's
right, and we're planning one soon, I hope. We just got the funding for it in Central Maui as well. So as soon as we get through the Thanksgiving season and I have a time to breathe between 2 and 4 a.m., I'll get that started.
Great. All right. Let's see. How are we doing on time, Joe?
What does our schedule say?
I don't know. I have all these questions up here, and I don't know what happened to the agenda.
Closing remarks are at 7:30, so.
Oh.
We
have plenty of time. Okay. So you were talking about being the co-chair of the Maui Homeless Alliance. And the continuum of care. So can you give us a little bigger overview of what that is and how it all fits into this?
That continuum of care has a horrible, long, ununderstandable or definition. I mean, it's really long and convoluted. But In a nutshell, it's a membership organization. We have homeless providers or houseless providers that provide services to people who aren't housed. We have community members, community organizations that care about that population. We have county, we have state organizations that also participate. Joe is on from West Maui Taxpayers Association. So it's a bunch of concerned citizens and organizations that have come together in hopes of resolving this issue, and also to move forward with the sustainable, affordable housing, because that's what we need. So it's not just housing. You know, it's great that people are building housing, but can our citizens and our community afford that housing? That's the other question. So there's other things going on in the community that we all can back and support in helping our homeless population. Also, there's a bigger connection, not just to the Maui Homeless Alliance. There's a connection to the Kauai Alliance and the Big Island Alliance. And as the 3 chapters come together, they are called Bridging the Gap, which is what Leah was talking about. So that is one large continuum of care with individual chapters on each island. Gets really confusing. Oahu, they have a huge population, so they only have one. They don't have to split themselves. And you know, for us on the neighbor islands, we have to also split the funding. So there is funding that is also associated with the Homeless Alliance. And you know, at some point, the Homeless Alliance is going to be more and more responsible about the expandable services that are coming in, and monitoring those services and evaluating those services. So again, the mission is to end homelessness and create sustainable housing options through collaborative advocacy, here we go, inclusive participation, and coordinated integrated response. So, you know, basically what I talked about earlier. Also, Maud is going to talk about a coordinated entry system, which is what we are all moving towards as far as how we want to provide services in this continuum, and comprehensive services, not gaps, you know, in services. And the other thing is that we all support the housing first model. So that's what we're kind of all pushing towards.
Okay, so just for those who might not know what Housing First is, can you give a little 101 on what that means? I mean, we hear it, but what exactly does it mean?
Housing First is it's a concept that works. You know, it's worked on the mainland. They've already implemented this on Oahu, and it's coming down the pike to the neighbor islands. So historically in the past, when we have people who want to move into something, you know, they go into the shelter or they go into transitional housing or something like that. Housing First is different because they'll take someone and they will put them in a house first and then wrap around services around them if they want. The thing with the Housing First concept that we're going to be working on is that every person who is homeless, every family that is homeless will go through an assessment. And I'm not going to go into that whole VI-SPDAT thing. So it's who places highest on this assessment is who they target to be put into Housing First. Because there's a bunch of families or individuals that'll come through that actually just need a little help or can self-resolve their issue of homelessness. And those families, they'll get referred to the right place, but it's the families with the highest need that are going to be placed into Housing First.
Okay, thank you. I have a question from the audience I will open to all of the panelists. So a big gap exists between the most affordable rental or, owned housing on Maui and wages at the low or middle income levels. So basically the question is, how realistic is it for us to consider conventional housing options given the cost of land and construction here on Maui? What other safe shelter options are under consideration? So I think two questions there. Number one, what safe shelter options are currently under consideration? I don't know if Kahaleakeola is looking at some new housing models. And then the other question is really, how realistic is it for us to consider conventional housing options given the cost of land and construction on Maui? So that is open to anybody.
I can take on the second part.
Okay.
Dan might want to take on the first part. Do you want to talk about that first? I'll talk for Kahaleakeola, I'll speak for our agency. So one of the questions that I was going to speak about or answer was as far as expanding services. So we actually on our facility are looking at adding permanent supportive housing in our central facility. So we would actually take our central facility, split it in half. Half of it would be going towards permanent supportive housing. So that will increase the housing capacity on the island, which is definitely necessary and needed. We do have affordable housing on the west side and in Wailuku as well, and that's Halemakana o Waiale. So that is affordable housing for those in need, and I was going to give that information as far as how can somebody apply for those services, because you only have to qualify initially to get into that affordable housing. Once you qualify initially, after that, you're not excluded from earning as much income as you want for the rest of your life. It's part of the federal program called the HOME program. So, what they wanted with the HOME program is to have people come in, get affordable housing, and be able to stay in that housing and be able to have a better quality of life with higher income if anybody wanted to do that. So that's an option for anyone on the island. And in order to apply for Halemakana o Waiale, someone would just call 249-0700, and we can give that person the information as far as where to go to apply, which is at our central facility at 195 Waimaluhia Lane in Wailuku. They actually go into our leasing office and apply to stay at one of the affordable housing units. And the wait list is a little bit long. It's about 6 to 9 months, which actually is not that bad considering how long the wait list is for other affordable housing units on the island of Maui. So that's just what I want to say as far as our affordable housing and our idea for expanding services. We also are actually looking at adding an additional building in our central facility sometime next year or the year after. So that's in the works as well, but not something that I'll get in the next six months to a year.
Thank you.
Along with the Housing First concept, Housing First is a philosophy as well as an intervention, but it came really out of a human rights belief that housing is a right and it's not a reward for compliant behavior. So in our old model, there was a kind of a pattern where we did, people have to go to emergency shelter, then they go to transitional shelter, and then we fix them all up and then they go into housing. Well, that's not, that has really changed, is that because housing is a right, we want to house people whether they have barriers or not, and then surround them with support services. So our hope is that we will, that shelters will be just emergency shelters, that they will be there to just serve the immediate emergency purpose, but that we would move them into permanent housing as rapidly as possible. And so that's why, Monique they've been looking at the concept of converting some of their emergency shelter into permanent housing and maybe fill some of that gap of the housing needs. We also, at Family Life Center, we have, over the last 5 years, purchased 2 small apartment complexes. What we look for are buildings that are underutilized, where we won't take units that are already in the market, but maybe one of the apartment complexes we purchased had storage units, and commercial areas that we're converting to be rental housing units so that we add to the market. So we're always looking for that. We're looking at another project right now that is not currently in use as an apartment. And then we keep the rentals at an affordable rate in perpetuity for as long as the life of the building. Because if we're going to build from scratch, it's going to take us 7 years. So we know that that's not really an option, that we have to do something quicker, faster, or we're never going to meet the need that's out there.
Is there a way for for what you're doing and for private sector to partner on that as well? Again, that's...
Yeah, I'll use Honolulu as an example only because it's the most recent that our firm has done, but in 2014, we opened a 203-unit, 19-story mid-rise in downtown Kaka'ako, which was utilizes federal low-income housing tax credits, which basically allow you to sell to financial institutions at a dollar-for-dollar credit so that you can build the equity that you need in order to do some of the pre-development. Anyway, basically lets you do all the paperwork and do the drawings so that you can get to a construction lending point to build. And we did all of that in probably one of the worst real estate markets of all time. We started that in 2011 when everyone wasn't really sure what was really happening. And just so everyone understands, it's a 60% AMI affordable project, meaning that everyone that's renting in that building is earning less than or up to 60% of the area median income. What that means in real terms is that you're getting a 3-bedroom in downtown, the heart of Kaka'ako, for about $1,500 a month, which 2 blocks away you're looking at $4,000 or $5,000 for a 3-bedroom unit. Again, we utilize the low-income housing tax credits program. So there is a way for it to happen. I can tell you that some developers are a little nervous about bringing some of that to Maui because sometimes it can be difficult to get a project going for more than just one reason. Not one agency, not one activist group or anything is to blame. There's a myriad of reasons, but I can tell you that that's one of the reasons why you haven't seen a low-income housing tax credit project built here. I will say that we are looking at trying to do that. So it's possible, and in addition to that, even if we build market units, it's a simple supply-demand curve function where if you're increasing the supply, even if it's not necessarily affordable, you're turning the market less from a landlord's market into a renter's market, where if you're doing a Housing First program, most of them are Section 8, or are you subsidizing rents to market? So if you're not doing that, IHS is using Housing First mentality, but they're using Section 8, and one of their issues is that it's a landlord's market. So a landlord can just pick and choose their renters, and so if there's the services aspect combined with some of us doing these low-income housing tax credit projects, and you really bridge that gap. You can do a lot of. I think everyone on this panel can do a lot of good, putting their work together. For whatever reason, Maui's a little bit more difficult, but we're working on it.
Good, thank you. Thanks for that update. And Ahmad, I was just curious what the rents are on some of the buildings that you're renovating right now.
One unit is, 1 bedroom is $750 and a studio is $450.
That's great.
I'm really glad somebody asked this question about what are the realistic things that we can do, because we've had a lot of discussion, but we don't really have a lot of action in the last couple of years. And another piece to this conversation that needs to happen and needs to get some grit behind it is to have housing that's supportive for people who actually might have addiction issues and or mental health. We do not have enough housing or group homes that support people. And the ones that we do have at times will actually kind of time people out. Like, you have a certain amount of time to be here and then you have to find somewhere else. And I've seen people go back into homelessness because they've had to leave. And I have to tell you, that is a really horrible cycle. And if we could interrupt that, to me, that's a low-hanging fruit as well, because then there's so much medical that's involved with that. The cost to that, to the individual and to the community, is way more than I think we have any knowledge of. I'd love to know how much it costs for people to go in and out of the hospital, in and out of the jail. And if we could back that money out and put that towards supporting some of this housing, I think we'd finally be able to get ahead a little bit of that. So that's just another piece that I think needs to be addressed.
Could I just add something there?
Yes.
It's really unprecedented what we're seeing. I mean, when I grew up as a kid, like I said, I'm 61. Did I ever think I would see a time where America had rampant homelessness? You know, who grows up and says, oh, wow, Mom, I want to be homeless? So because it's unprecedented, I think we need to look beyond some of the obvious solutions too. And Maui has its own, like we said, this is like a snowball rolling down a hill. The more you look at this thing, the bigger it gets. But Maui has some very unusual scenarios. First of all, we're a small island. There's only so much land to begin with. The land is expensive. This is a big tourist industry. If I were a landlord, would I rather rent it out for $400 a month or $3,000 a week? Okay, so I think that we need to look outside of the old box. This is an unprecedented time, and we need to come up with some unprecedented solutions. What can private individuals do? How much land is available that there's nobody or no thing on that could sustain many families? I think it's sad that we're already into second and in some cases third generation homelessness in this country.
Yeah, that's
And
terrible
that's-
when we see that, and we see it right here in Maui. And I know Thelma picked up her microphone.
I think that's one of the questions they're trying to deal with now. Where is the land? Who has the land? Does the state have the land? Does the county have the land? Why can't they use some of that land for housing? The other thing is that we need to look into our county government. The county government is always passing ordinances or looking at changes in legislation. Right now, they're looking at accessory dwelling or, law. And this accessory dwelling is for the smaller lots. And it's a smaller home, and it's restricted to affordable housing. So it doesn't have to be family, it can be anybody, they can rent to anybody. And I believe that Ellie is trying to champion some of the assurances that it will remain affordable.
And you bring up a great point, and it's another thing that the public can do is, stay on top of what's happening at the county level, what's happening at the state level, and when they have the public meetings, come out, testify, let people know that you support something, because that speaks volumes. I know, right, Leah? I mean, when people come and talk to you and, gets up to the governor, it makes an impact. So everybody really needs to get involved at different levels and be an advocate and come out and testify. I know we're gently running out of time, so I'd like to just go through the panel and have you do some closing remarks if there's anything that you didn't get asked that you would like to discuss. And again, maybe give your information again so that people who aren't here, who are watching it on Akaku, know how to get in touch with you, or for the people here, what are people want to help, so let us know how we can do that and how to get in touch with you. So Lisa, why don't we start with you, and we'll go down this way.
Well, I really appreciate being here and being part of this panel. Another thought I had, which I'm hoping that the community can pick up on, is I'd love to see community associations dedicate a part of their agendas and maybe even get committees together. And I'd love to see, because each community has a different flavor to it. And what what East Maui experiences may be very different from what South Maui experiences. And we haven't heard from community associations in general. And I would really love to see, this is a little different way of thinking, it's a paradigm shift, but really get community associations to take this on. And I'd be happy to go around also and kind of facilitate kind of what that would look like. So yeah, I'd offer that, and I'd love to see the community more involved.
Thank you.
Grateful to have been here, to be a part of this beautiful dialogue. Things happen in synergy when we all put things on the table and share our ideas. I guess the one last thing that I would like to add, if it's in any way speaking for those who have been unsheltered, is aloha. It's all about aloha. You know, there but by the grace of God go I. How many paychecks away, you know, could it be for you or for someone you love? And so to really come to each other from that place of compassion and caring and dignity, love, mutual respect. You know, it's not rocket science, it's the golden rule. We've heard this when we're 5, treat people the way we would like to be treated. And so I love that these dialogues are happening. I'm excited to be a part of this. It gives me hope. It makes me smile, because the most horrible thing that people that are unsheltered experience is hopelessness. So thank you. Thank you very much for this dialogue.
Thank you very much.
I just wanted to give all of you kind of an update. First of all, thank you to the West Maui Taxpayers Association for its unwavering support for Kahoma Village. You know, this association has been instrumental. You spoke before the Planning Commission, before the Council. May Stanford sends his regards personally. You know, thank you very much for all your support. Just a quick update. We'll have the dust fence up on Monday. We'll have masquerading going on all over December. We hope to be moving in our first set of affordable units by this time, maybe a little bit later of next year. So keep an eye out of that. I get calls every day from Lahaina Luna school teachers, tile setters. You know, the whole workforce is asking, and we've been working very hard to try and bring this to, you know, an excellent community, to your neighborhood, and we hope to do that for you. Thank you again for all your support. And good evening.
Okay, thank you again, Joe, for sponsoring this, the West Maui Taxpayers Association. Come out to our events. Again, we have a sign waving tomorrow. Wednesday night, we have the candlelight vigil. Thursday is the, what was it, Thursday? The resource fair. And then you just come out for that. And then if anyone needs help with food, it's Feed My Sheep, 872-9100, or feedmysheepmaui.com.
I'd say that the answer to homelessness is homes. And so give people a chance, come on. That we're really, we try not to be focused on what happened in the past. We're focused on how the future is going to look different for a person. And so we'll do our best to work with our clients and support them in every way, but if you can give them a chance.
And ditto, thank you so much. My ditto, yeah, you like that, don't you? Thank you, Joe and Rick, for opening tonight. And thank you, Deidre, you always do such a great job. And just thank you, audience, and thank you, Akaku, for being able to send the message out that we just need community support as well. We need your help, we need everybody's help, because it's just not our problem. It's everybody's problem. So thank you for this evening. And our number is 270-7805. And it is not just the Section 8, but I just wanted to mention that county does have a wrap. Oh no, I'm not going to rap for you. But anyway, but it's a rental assistance program, and Kahale Akeola, Women Helping Women, MEO, and Family Life Center are part of that program. So you may call them up, and here you go.
Thank you, Jan, and I echo everything that she just said, but I'm not going to use her word. I love it. Ditto. We do have our rental assistance program through the county, and that is open to anyone in the community. So that's not only for our residents that are staying at our shelters, that's for anyone. So if anyone's interested in that program, please call 242-7600. But we also have the CSHI monies that the the governor put out to the state. So we have 2 pockets of rental assistance and security deposit monies available to our community members. And again, you don't have to be a resident of our facility to partake of that. You just have to call us and ask about it, and we'll get a meeting with you to speak to our rental assistance coordinator. And I thank everyone here tonight. I'm thankful to Joe for inviting me and to be a part of this panel, and I just appreciate it. And I do want everyone to know there, like Jan talked about, and all of us here, there's actually a lot of hope. There's so much hope for our community members. It's not a lost cause. We have all these services and agencies that are doing this great and phenomenal work. And so just please call any of us, and we're really good about referring to each other's programs. So please feel free to reach out and ask questions or call. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I'm going to steal Jan's word. Ditto for me, too. And again, I also want to thank everybody. I really appreciate being here. I want to say that Catholic Charities Hawaii also has emergency financial assistance for people in the community. Some of it is similar as what Monique had mentioned about the rental and the deposit. We also do utilities and a bunch of other things. So we also have the OHA funding, and our phone number is 873-4673. And don't be fooled, our number is Kahului, but we are in Wailuku. So for folks who don't know that we have moved from Christ the King, do not go there because we're no longer there. We are in Wailuku, so call first. Oh, and also I'm getting whispers on the side that says you can also call 211, and I believe some of the funding is connected to the 211, so if people call there, they will be directed to the folks on Maui that can assist them. So thank you so much.
So 211 is an emergency number for a multitude of agencies, correct?
Correct. It's housed by Aloha United Way, I believe, who also is helping with the CSHI funding.
Well, I'd like to give a big round of applause to the individuals at this panel for all the amazing work that they do for our community. You help make Maui no ko'oi, and we thank you for all that you do, and ditto to everything you all said. You're all amazing, and thank you very much. Thank you for being here tonight, and thank you for doing all that you do. At this time, I'd like to turn it back over to the one and only Joe Pluta.
Thank you, Deidre. Now let's give her a big hand. Didn't she do a great job? Isn't it fantastic? And panel members, thank you. I've gotten a lot of thanks from you and from everybody, but the people in Akaku, I'm so glad that this is being filmed because this message is so important. It just exemplifies so much hope and love and support, and the hope is what it's all about, right? That hopelessness, I understand that, and that was very, very moving to be able to see it and feel it here tonight. I felt the love here from this panel, and I feel it every time I go to a Maui Homeless Alliance meeting. There's never been a group that I've ever been associated with that had more feeling, love, and compassion. And it's amazing. I look forward to those meetings, and I thank you for your continued service, all of you who do that on a regular basis. Thank you. Housing is the answer, right? Homelessness, let's get homes. Thank you all for attending, and we'll have a broadcast schedule about this film where it can be rebroadcast and viewed again. From Akako, they're going to publish that, and we'll make sure that word gets out. Have a wonderful evening. God bless and aloha.